The parade continues for the First Family, the President of the United States, the First Lady. They're watching what's going on from the reviewing stand, and no doubt they're thrilled to see what's going on. It's getting dark here, the sun going down quickly in Washington, D.C. Remember, they still have a full night of balls they have to go to. Every one of those official balls, they'll be there, and they'll have to make a quick change, get into tuxedos for the men and beautiful gowns for the women, which I'm sure they've thought long and hard about. What a day it's been for this country and for Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. Although I want to update you on what happened earlier at that luncheon up on Capitol Hill. Senator Ted Kennedy collapsed, and we're now getting new information in from his doctor, the chair of the neurosurgery department at Washington Hospital. Senator Kennedy experienced, according to the doctor, a seizure today while attending a luncheon for President Barack Obama in the U.S. Capitol. After testing, we believe the incident was brought on by simple fatigue. Senator Kennedy is awake, talking with his family and friends, and feeling well. He will remain in the Washington Hospital Center overnight for observation and will be released in the morning. That's very, very good news. Let's bring in our chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, what do you think?
Well, you know, I mean, in these sorts of situations, you have to try and figure out if something happened that brought on the seizure that was obvious, something that could be dealt with. For example, was there a regrowth of the tumor or swelling around the tumor as a result of some of the therapy, or some of the medications not at an appropriate dose? If all those things seem to come back normal or without anything that seems unusual, then you start to attribute it to, as this doctor did, to simple fatigue or a lot of stress. You know, I think that with tumors in particular, you have to make sure that the bad things are ruled out first. We do know, and I think the good news was that, you know, it was around 2:35 that he had this seizure, and we were talking to folks at the hospital almost an hour later exactly. They told us he was awake, he was alert, he was talking to his family and friends, so that certainly was a very good sign. I should point out, Wolf, that this isn't the first time that he's had a seizure since his brain tumor diagnosis. His brain tumor was diagnosed back in May. He had his operation in June. He did have a seizure back in September that was reported as well. At that time, it was attributed to a change in medications. So this is not that unusual in someone that has a tumor. And then this is, you know, again, a little bit of a warning sign for doctors to look, to investigate, to make sure nothing's going on. But good news indeed, I think, overall for the Senator, Wolf.
Yeah, I think you're right. Obviously, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, our chief medical correspondent himself, a neurosurgeon. Let's get back to what we're seeing right now. Barack Obama looking at his watch. He probably realizes they're behind schedule. They've been behind schedule for much of the day, but you know what? 10 to 12, perhaps 13,000 people have come to Washington to participate directly in this parade, and he's going to stay there and enjoy it because they're here to watch this Native American parade moving along right now. I love, it's trite to say it, Gloria Borger, but I love a parade.
So do I, Wolf, and this is a particularly terrific parade because each of these groups were chosen with great care by the incoming administration. We were talking before about the symbolism of the Tuskegee Airmen, for example. In 2007, this group was collectively awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. And today, in this parade,
13,000 applications to march in this parade, and that's something like triple the number they normally get, and they had to really whittle it down. 90 groups now are really marching in the parade, but over 13,000 people.
The Tuskegee Airmen marching did bring back the thoughts that at an inauguration that's been so echoed Lincoln in so many ways, that the first time African Americans marched in a parade for a president was with Abraham Lincoln. It was in 1865, and they were troops who had, you know, he opened up the army to bring in blacks to fight, and they did so bravely, and they were honored in a parade. He was also the first American president to have African Americans at a reception at a presidential inauguration. You know, so he broke a lot of the ground that went into these traditions. But you think that African Americans have been marching these parades now for about a century and a half?
One of the unanswered questions is how many people actually came to Washington today, showed up on the National Mall to be an eyewitness to the swearing-in ceremony of Barack Obama. And we're getting an estimate. I want to go back to John King. We took a satellite picture. We showed our viewers. John, is there a number that experts are now putting forward?
We don't have that number yet, Wolf. We are waiting to get it. And as we wait, I just want to show our viewers one of the ways they will calculate that number. Let's go back to our GOI image. And this is an image. Here you see the United States Capitol. I'm going to stretch it out a little bit. This was taken in late December. You see the stand here where the inauguration took place. It had been built on the Capitol. But notice the grass and the grounds are pretty empty. Perhaps a few people wandering around there, but you don't see them. Now I'm going to fast forward. This is 11:19 a.m. this morning. And you see now, if I stretch it out just a little bit more, a full house here on the grounds. This is one of the ways, looking at this satellite image, which we turned around, we believe, in record time for non-military applications from space. See all the crowds here in the Capitol. That will shrink down a little bit, and we are literally going to fly down the National Mall here. And as we fly down the mall, Walter, stay with me, you see all these people here up against the barricades. I'll stop it, pull it out a little bit. You see the swarms of people down here, and then we can come all the way down, Wolf, a big swarm here, but still some open spaces. Remember, there were giant Jumbotron TV monitors down there, so people swarming around those. Back a bit further, more swarms here. We're literally flying down the National Mall, and when you get here, you see another very large swarm of people right in here, and now we are getting closer as I pull out a little bit. You come down the mall, people here, the Washington Monument, some large groups of people right in here at the Washington Monument. Again, the Jumbotron screens up here, there's more over here, but a lot of open space here, and they will use this to make the crowd estimate, and I'll just fly all the way through now. You come all the way down where the Lincoln Memorial is. This area, not as crowded as many might have thought it would have been. All this will be used, Wolf. We should have it somewhere around the top of the hour. I'm going to pull back out the crowd estimate. And as we wait for that number, we do know, of course, that Barack Obama is just outside his new home, right here at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, watching the parade from that reviewing stand. Wolf?
All right, John, thanks very much. And at some point, we will actually get a number. There is the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States. They're watching this parade continue, saluting the troops as they go forward. What a day this has been. And remember, it's happening the day after we all celebrated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s national holiday here in the United States. When we come back, something rare indeed, but something very significant. We're going to speak with the family of Dr. King and get their thoughts on this historic day. We're continuing our coverage right here in the Situation Room of the inauguration of Barack Obama. A spectacular shot from the west front of the U.S. Capitol. That's where Barack Obama was sworn in as President of the United States nearly 6 hours ago. It's an amazing shot that we're seeing. I'm Wolf Blitzer. We're covering all of this right here in the Situation Room. Once again, we want to welcome our viewers throughout the United States and around the world. The National Mall now largely empty, but the parade continues. The parade, a wonderful parade. It's going in front of the reviewing stand where the President and the First Lady are sitting right now, sometimes standing, as we watch what's going on. The President's clearly having a good time with the Vice President as well. This is a moment. This is a moment that a lot of people have waited for a long time. But as soon as this evening is done with, and they'll be going to several official balls, they got to get down to business tomorrow. Our senior White House correspondent Ed Henry is watching what's going on. Ed Henry is there together with Suzanne Malveaux, our White House correspondent. Give us a sense of what awaits the President and the Vice President tomorrow, Ed.
Wolf, it's a hefty agenda. Tomorrow, the president already has two big meetings. He's bringing in his senior economic advisors to talk about the financial crisis, try to ramp up the sales job and trying to convince Congress to pass his now $825 billion economic recovery plan. He also has a meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, military commanders, to try to change the mission in Iraq, to try to fulfill his campaign promise to remove all U.S. combat troops within 16 months. Meanwhile, his staff staff is trying to get right down to business. A lot of housekeeping here. When I was on the west front of the Capitol, shortly after Barack Obama was sworn in earlier today, I started noticing that very senior aides started disappearing. People like Robert Gibbs, the new press secretary, Greg Craig, the new White House counsel, the chief lawyer. They had vans waiting for them. They raced on over here to get ready to start, getting right down to business. But what's interesting is that Robert Gibbs is already telling us that he can't even really get his computer going. They're trying to get the nuts and bolts of starting a White House. He did notice, though, that there were all the O's were on the keyboards. A little bit of joke about the W's, some of the W's that were taken off keyboards back in 2000 during the last major transition. Some business that Barack Obama did do today. He signed a proclamation, as previous presidents have, on renewal and reconciliation on this inaugural day, plus a proclamation about his cabinet and sub-cabinet appointments. He got 7 senior people confirmed by the U.S. Senate, including the Secretaries of Energy, Education, Homeland Security, Interior, Veterans, Agriculture, also his Budget Director, Peter Orszag. Now, they also wanted to get Hillary Clinton in as Secretary of State. A Republican Senator, John Cornyn, blocked that for now. Some more questions about Bill Clinton's foundation work. But White House spokesman Robert Gibbs says he thinks he'll get Hillary Clinton confirmed as early as tomorrow by the U.S. Senate. And he's also hopeful that Tim Geithner, the Treasury Secretary designate, who's faced some trouble now for not paying his taxes several years ago, they hope to get a committee vote, at least in the Senate Finance Committee, as early as Thursday to get that nomination back on track, Wolf.
Ed Henry, thanks very much. Suzanne Malveau's also out there at Lafayette Park, right across from where the President and the First Lady. She seems to be having a great time, Suzanne, the First Lady. I know you've spent some time with her over these many months of the campaign, the race for the White House. She seems to be really happy right now. You can't blame her.
Absolutely. It's interesting to note both of them. Obviously, this has been a huge transition for this family. They have made tremendous sacrifices. She is fondly known by her friends as the taskmaster, the one who really kept everything running in Chicago when it came to the kids. They would take shifts from time to time, actually looking after them. But they have a whole host, a community of people, of friends, very close friends, who you also see who are here joining them. With their young children as well. They hope to open this White House to the public, to the people, that they will have those friends close by to keep it real. He might lose the BlackBerry, but he is going to stay in touch with them. They say this is a very important time to keep the family together. And one of the things that he said early on that he knew that if he would be a successful father is that if this did not impact Sasha and Malia in a way that changed them, he wants them to stay the same, just as they are, pure, innocent, wide-eyed, and obviously, Wolf, that's going to be a very difficult job ahead. When you look at the tremendous things that they are seeing around them just today, the changes that will go through their lives, even when they sleep in their beds for the first time here in the White House, it will be just a completely different life for all of them. So they are leaning on their friends. They're leaning on the family. Obviously, the grandmother, Marion Robinson, is also here in the White House, who will be living with them. And they know that this is a time of reflection. This is a time of change. And they are going to try to keep their very close-knit family together as much as possible.
All right, Suzanne, stand by. That's the Green Valley High School Marching Band. They've come in from Henderson, Nevada. That's outside of Las Vegas. This is their first appearance here in an inaugural parade. The Green Valley High School Marching Band has 120 marchers. They're performing This Is My Country and, not a surprise, Viva Las Vegas as they pass by the presidential reviewing stand. Band has performed at events in Rome, Italy, Paris, France, London, England, as well as Carnegie Hall in New York City. That's pretty cool, I have to say, as well. All right, we'll take another quick break here in the Situation Room. We're going to try to get a crowd estimate. I know that John King has been working with experts based on the satellite imagery we've shown you here in the Situation Room. We'll try to get a number. How many people do they believe actually showed up for the swearing-in ceremony of Barack Obama? Our coverage continues in the Situation Room right after this.
range in age. 9 to 16.
Tennessee marching band, the so-called Pride of the Southland band. This is a band from Knoxville, Tennessee. It's making its 12th consecutive appearance in this inaugural parade. Today, these young men and women who represent 308 members of the Pride of the Southland marching band will be performing Rocky Top. All of these bands, they're so proud just to be able to participate, to join us, and to entertain. Looks like Barack Obama's wiping away something from his nose. It's a little chilly out there, and I hope he doesn't get sick as a result, spending so much time outdoors today. Hopefully he'll be. Yeah, it's getting colder. It's getting colder as the night goes on. But I know for a fact, because I've been in that reviewing stand at the White House, they've got heaters there for the president and the first lady and the vice president. All right, I want to go back earlier, almost 6 hours exactly, and play this excerpt of what Barack Obama said in his inaugural address.
We will not apologize for our way of life, nor will we waver in its defense. And for those who seek to advance their aims by inducing terror and slaughtering innocents, we say to you now that our spirit is stronger and cannot be broken. You cannot outlast us, and we will defeat you. To the Muslim world, we seek a new way forward based on mutual interest and mutual respect. To those leaders around the globe who seek to sow conflict or blame their society's ills on the West, know that your people will judge you on what you can build, not what you destroy. To those who cling to power through corruption and deceit and the silencing of dissent, know that you are on the wrong side of history, but that we will extend a hand if you are willing to unclench your fist.
The United States speaking almost 6 hours ago, the president speaking in his inaugural address. We're back live now at the reviewing stand where Barack Obama, Joe Biden, among others, they're watching this parade continue to go forward. David Gergen, I know it's early and we have to digest what Barack Obama said in his approximately 20-minute address to the world, his inaugural address. But how do you think it will rank? How do you think he did?
I think he had chose, Wolf, not to write a speech for the ages, not to write a speech that would be on the Lincoln Memorial 100 years from now, but rather to speak to the moment. And on that, I think he did extremely well. He used the phrase, this is a moment that will define a generation. And I think this speech succeeded in doing that, in beginning a new generation of leadership here in this country. I thought he and understanding and recognizing the crisis that we're in and not trying to paint a rosy picture of it, not trying to say things are going to get better suddenly, but being very realistic. He's taken on the role in part of educator, not necessarily just the inspirational figure. And I think that works well for him. I'm sure it played well in the world. There was, of course, this defiance toward those who would do us harm, but there was also a hand of friendship to others around the world and a promise that America would lead in a new way. All of that, I think, will work well. It will not be, rhetorically, I don't think it was a match, frankly, for his speech on race. I think that had more of an eternal sense about it. But as an inaugural speech to launch an activist presidency, I thought it was very effective.
You know,
Gloria.
Rhetorically, it may not even have been a match for his speech after he lost the New Hampshire primary, which was a brilliant speech. But I think that was not what he was really striving for today. I think he wanted to be very clear that this was a change in leadership, a change in direction, and that the moment spoke for itself. He couldn't get beyond the moment rhetorically because it was so profound. And so what he did was outline what I would consider to be a very ambitious plan for what he called remaking America. And that's a big idea. And there are lots of big plans that are a part of it. And he said and made it very clear that out of crisis comes opportunity.
In that plan of remaking America, you got the sense that he underscored all these different American stories. If you were an immigrant from Europe, who came here how many years ago or past generations, this was part of your story. If you were descendants of slaves, this was part of your story. And if you picked cotton, this was part of your story. I mean, everybody was included, and then also reached out internationally as well. So it was a very inclusive speech. Completely.
You know, what struck you, Don, as you listened?
It was very determined, Wolf, and also it seemed a little bit stern that we need to learn from the lessons that from the past and to move on. But also what Soledad was saying as well, those topics that he talked about in this speech about inclusion and diversity, you can see it there as Ed Henry and Suzanne Malveaux were talking about. You can see it in this reviewing stand here. It is part of his cabinet and his administration, part of his family as well. And you also see it in the performers who are out here marching in the parade. You know, we saw the Nez Nation, a Native American folks marching in the parade. You also saw it with the South Cobb High School Band from Georgia as well. So diversity, inclusion, we're all in this together, all of those topics
But
here.
it was also a very sharp speech, particularly when it comes to foreign policy. And I think he spoke to all nations, to the world, and said something, we are ready to lead once more. And I think the once more was really an important phrase and a bit of a swipe at the Bush administration.
More than a swipe.
Yeah. More than a swipe, a slap, I would say, at the Bush administration. I would imagine that was pretty difficult for George W. Bush to sit and listen to.
They're honoring the United States Air Force right now, the Air Force staff going forward before the reviewing stand of the President of the United States, comprising the 4 member staffs of the Air Force, each component, the active duty, the reserve, the National Guard, and the United States Air Force Academy. They're moving forward before the reviewing stand, and a lovely sight indeed for the United States Air Force. Always an honor and a privilege for the Commander-in-Chief to see the Air Force in action. They're in action right now as they move forward. Right behind them, you can see the Mountain Ridge High School Pride of the West Marching Band. They're coming in representing Glendale, Arizona, and they'll be making their first appearance in an inaugural parade. As we watch this parade continue, we have a live picture coming in from Midland, Texas. The former President of the United States, George W. Bush, you see it on the right-hand side of the screen. He's now back in his home state of Texas. Wanted to stop off in Midland before he continued on to Crawford and his presidential ranch. He's going to be speaking to his fellow Texans in Midland on this day, the day he stopped being president of the United States, the day he became a former president of the United States. And look, got a nice crowd of people that have shown up in Texas to honor him, to honor his 8 years as President of the United States. A nice split screen, Soledad, what's happening in Washington right now and what's about to happen in Texas.
Interesting to see, and it was interesting to see earlier as well when we were able to show from around the country different people who are watching the inauguration. I mean, to get the sense of how involved and how interested people are this time around has been really interesting. In Times Square, it looked like people had stopped. Times Square, everyone was standing and watching the jumbotrons, watching the coverage. It was quite remarkable.
As interesting as the number is going to be about how many were actually here, will be the numbers on how many watched in the United States and how many watched worldwide. Because I think particularly that worldwide number is going to be much higher than anybody would have anticipated from an American inauguration a few months ago.
And I like to think that, we here at CNN, we've played a little role in helping people not only across the United States, but around the world show what's happening in this country, because people, no doubt, in huge numbers are watching. They're watching every second of this. In fact, I'm getting emails from people all over the world. In fact, I want to make sure our viewers around the world are welcomed here as we continue our coverage of the inauguration of Barack Obama here in the Situation Room. What an exciting event and what an exciting opportunity for all of us to have this front row seat to history as it unfolds. Hillary Rosen, our analyst, is here as well. Hillary, as you see this going on and these great marching bands performing for the President of the United States, what goes through your mind? I don't know if Hillary Rosen is hearing me. Unfortunately, she's not, but we'll get back to Hillary Rosen. She'll be hearing us fairly soon. You see the marching band continuing right now. Lots of excitement. Gloria Borger is going to be especially happy that the Montana delegation is going to be coming forward pretty soon as well.
Very excited.
Gloria, part-time resident of Montana. So that'll bring back some nice thoughts for you and your family,
Snow.
Gloria.
Yeah, thoughts of snow.
Some 5 historically black colleges are performing in the inaugural parade.
You know what I'm thinking about, though, today is what we've witnessed, and every time we witness this smooth transfer of power, it's a majestic, yet at the same time, it's sort of this simple ceremony where one president is in, and one president just leaves and goes back home to Midland, Texas. The other president says goodbye to him. It's reaffirming. It is. Reaffirming is the word I'm searching for. It truly is.
I think David is right on when he talks about the numbers of people watching all across the world. But when you look at the numbers of people who showed up for when he was running in Europe, hundreds of thousands of people. And Barack Obama, according to the European press, is not only just a political leader, but he is a cultural icon now. And some say, in the ranks, or at least joining the ranks of a Nelson Mandela. And that's how the rest of the world looks at him. So I'm sure, people all over the world are watching in very high numbers, Will.
Yeah, we just saw the Hampton University marching force go by, representing Hampton, Virginia. It's first time at an inaugural parade. They played, by the way, the Stevie Wonder great song, Signed, Sealed, Delivered. That was almost a theme song for the Obama campaign. That's being followed now by the AmeriCorps alumni. This is an element symbolically dedicated to public service. AmeriCorps has come a long way over these years, serving millions of people around the country, and the alumni have been coming forward since John F. Kennedy's call to service and the original conception of VISTA, the Volunteers in Service to America program. That was way back in 1961. All right, let's get some analysis of what we're seeing from some of our other contributors. Amy Holmes is joining us. Amy, I hope you can hear me, because this is a pretty exciting moment as these parades continue to go before the president.
It's an extraordinary occasion, and we just saw on screen AmeriCorps coming down the parade. AmeriCorps was a program, as you know, created by Bill Clinton, but George Bush doesn't get credit for this. He grew that agency to $1 billion agency. I worked for AmeriCorps, so I was there when it happened, and he asked Americans to serve. Conservatives, they wanted to cut the program, but George Bush said, no, this is important, especially after 9/11, and John was just telling me that Michelle Obama intends to make this a big focus of her first ladyship, and that I applaud her. Earlier you were talking about Barack Obama and his ability to connect to young people. AmeriCorps is one way to do that. But I'll just tell you, when you're putting up the images of him going hang 10 to his Hawaiian high school, the people behind us, they roared. They were clapping. They loved it when he would just do a little dance, do a little jig. That, too, was signaling that he's a younger leader. The generational torch has passed, and he really connects with those younger voters.
Yeah, I know, and it's a good point. Hillary Rosen, you're watching this with all of us as well. You've worked hard for the Democrats over these many years, and you must be thrilled.
Well, it is so nice, actually, to see them, see the Obamas sitting in the reviewing stand, smiling and dancing. And I was sitting here thinking how nice it is to have a president with rhythm again. That we've got, a president who likes to dance, a first lady who clearly is enjoying the music, that there is a vigor that this family brings, and I think it's something that is so desperately needed by the country right at this moment. I thought it was poignant when President Obama in the inaugural address said that it's not just that the country has problems, it's that our confidence has been sapped. And I think that just the visual of their energy and enthusiasm, bolsters that confidence.
The world-famous Lawn Rangers coming in from amazing Arcola. We're talking about Arcola, Illinois. They're making their first appearance in this inaugural parade. These masked men are starting their 28 years, continuing their 28 years of crowd-pleasing precision marching. You see some guy dressed like Abraham Lincoln as well. Not surprising, given that he's from Illinois. Leslie Sanchez, what do you think?
It's tremendously exciting. I have to agree about the excitement and the vigor and the freshness that this brings to this country. I thought the homage that President Obama paid to immigrants, there was a theme in the beginning there where he was talking about the people that have built this country, the hard work, and any different community could identify that was somebody from their family, somebody from their heritage. Anybody who sought political or economic freedom, any types of freedom. It was a bond to connect. But with respect to young people, I think what's fascinating, an email already went out to all of their supporters saying thank you for your support. That came out before he was actually named president, sworn in. And that kind of connectivity is, I think, what young people are excited about and why they're paying attention to politics for the first time. You have hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, who are watching today, who have never been involved in politics or public service, who are taking a different look at this country and what they can do. And the last part I would say is this kind of technology has changed everything from a 24/7 news cycle, which was past presidents and how they had to deal with it. It's now a 2 to 4 second tweet cycle where people are going to want instant contact with this government, with this president, and how he manages to bring that connection together is going to be something to watch.
It's an amazing, amazing development. This is the Blue Springs High School Golden Regiment Marching Band. They've come in from Blue Springs, Missouri, making their first appearance in this inaugural parade as well.
More traditional than what we were looking at, the precision lawnmower drill team. The motto, I might add, and I know they've just passed by a moment ago, they say, you're only from Arcola, Illinois, and they say you're only young once, but you can always be immature. So clearly a great sense of humor, and then they go back to the traditional marching band that follows them.
And I love it when the First Family now, they get really into it. They move around. They're experiencing the music. They're feeling the music. And speaking of music, we have a special guest joining us right now, the great Quincy Jones. What do you think, Quincy? Actually, we're going to speak to Quincy Jones in a moment. We'll speak to him right after we come back, our continuing coverage of the inauguration of Barack Obama. Here in the Situation Room, we'll resume with Quincy Jones right after this.
State of the Union with John King, CNN Sunday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern.
They're continuing to move forward, the parade. These floats, all of these floats are so exciting, so beautiful. It's exciting for the President and the First Lady. There's no doubt about that. As we watch the parade, you're always going to see the parade here in the Situation. I want to go to our senior White House correspondent, Ed Henry, because he's got some news high on the agenda of this new administration. Ed, what do you...
According to White House officials, a new White House Chief of Staff, Rahm Emanuel, has signed a memo today that has gone to all federal departments and agencies, basically saying they need to stop all pending regulations that were put in place by the Bush administration in the final days until the new Obama administration can conduct a full legal review. This is somewhat standard in the sense that a new administration will always come in and take a look at what was done, the so-called midnight regulations, what the outgoing administration did on the way out. But what you can bet in the days ahead is this will lead to all kinds of changes, potentially by executive order, potentially by legislation, in which the Obama administration will try to undo various policies that the Bush administration put through in the final days, Wolf.
Ed Henry watching the story for us, keeping a close eye, as he will be over the years to come. The president already taking some steps through his chief of staff to get some decisions underway. As we listen to this music, no one is better to talk about music, even music of this sort, than Quincy Jones, the legend. And he's joining us right now to talk about what he sees happening. Quincy, thanks very much for coming in on this historic day. And there's a story out there that the whole notion of Barack Obama thinking about running for president of the United States was discussed with you way back in 2005. Tell our viewers what happened at your kitchen table.
Well, we was at the kitchen table at my home right here. came by, and she was sitting to my left. I'm sitting here, and then there was Barack and Michelle sitting next to her. And I didn't realize that they were going this term. I didn't realize it at the time. And it was the most incredible conversation when I saw this man's mind. And what I admired about him most, and I see the application every day of where if he runs into difficult times, he does not lose control, and he tries to figure it out. He knows he has to have a diagnosis before he gets a prescription. And if he gets real good, he doesn't get overjoyed. And it's beautiful to have a Senate leader like that, among many other things he has. He's very hip. He understands the street. He understands the upper echelon. He understands everything. And it's like something I can't even believe I'm watching. I just wish my father
Quincy, how did that conversation with you, Oprah, and now the President of the United States, how did that unfold? What did he say to you as you were, did he ask you what you thought about that possibility?
Well, at that time, we weren't sure when he was going to run. It was that premature, and then I ran into McKennedy at the primaries in Iowa, and he came up, I asked, was he there, and then he comes, says, I'm not going to go, and we talked a while, and so forth, and then one thing just led to another, and he got an amazing team. He's got what you look for as a musician, amazing brass section, and woodwinds, and rhythm section. He's really something special.
Quincy and Soledad. Curious to know how you think.
My biggest dream is I know he's got his hands full with the economic fallout with the Gaza, et cetera, and so we're not been up there a long time. And on a parallel path, though, I'm going to, as soon as it's feasible, to talk. And we're getting a petition together for a Secretary of the Arts with a real cabinet membership, because America's the only country whose music is probably most imitated in any country in the world. The only country without a Minister of Culture, or Secretary of the Arts. And I think it's very important. It could change this country
I know
a lot.
you put that proposal forward before. Quincy, Soledad O'Brien is here. She wants to talk to you as well.
I was going to ask you about the impact of Barack Obama, but actually...
Soledad O'Brien is here, and she's going to ask you a question.
Hey, Quincy and Soledad. Well, who do you think should be Secretary of the Arts? I'm so cute. Quincy, you know I love you right back. Who do you think should be Secretary of the Arts?
She's asking a serious question, Quincy, and you're trying to be not so serious.
I'm getting nowhere.
Yeah. Who do you want to be the Secretary of Arts or the Culture Minister in the United States?
Who's that?
Who do you want to be Secretary of Arts?
Well, what we're doing before that is we're putting together a summit, so you'll have the greatest minds on the planet, that can be like an advisory board to that. I'm trying to think strategic, too, because I'm cognizant of what he's up against, and I know we're not at the top of the list, but I think it's a very, very important element. The culture of a country is part of the soul of a country. And I'm idealistic enough to think that things like Columbine and these things wouldn't exist if these kids knew what they stand for on an international basis. It's
fair
very
point.
true.
All right, it's a fair point. I'm sure it'll be a subject for discussion. Don Lemon, our CNN anchor, is watching all of this unfold. He wants to weigh in with a question for you.
Hey, Quincy, as you watch this and you watch Barack Obama, who comes from a mixed family, and you yourself have a mixed family, what do you think
I'm
is...
from Chicago. We came from the same place.
And from Chicago, yes. What do you think this means to, especially America, when it comes to this big tent that Barack Obama is talking about and inclusion and accepting everyone?
thought I'd ever see it. I'm going to be very straight with you. And I even got calls from the 14 or 15 heads of state, big guys, afterwards. And because I've been traveling the world a long time on goodwill tours 50 years ago with Dizzy Gillespie and Aleppo and Damascus and Tehran and around all these places. So I've seen the evolution of a lot of the things we're going through today. But I think he is going to turn the world around. I really do.
David Gergen is our senior political analyst Quincy is here as well. You know, he's blunt, David, in saying he never thought he'd see this day, but yet Quincy Jones and everyone else who's alive has seen this day. David.
Absolutely. Quincy Jones, you just said you've traveled the world playing as you have. What should a Secretary of the... Wow. What should a Secretary of the Arts do internationally for America? What would you like to see it happen?
Let's start at home. You know, we can start. So what I find, you know, and I just had a conversation with a kid in Seattle when I was up to my old high school, Garfield in Seattle, and I asked him, did he know who Louis Armstrong was? He said, I heard the name. What about John Coltrane and Duke Ellington and Charlie Parker? He said, I don't know who they are. And that hurts me so much, you know, that they're not aware of who their giants are. Like the 3 Bs in Germany who are aware of their culture, but they're aware of ours too, or Russia, or France, or any place else. Japan, you know, and I've experienced it. And it hurts. I just got promoted to the commander of the Legion d'Honneur, and I almost cried. And Marilyn Bergman said the same thing with the arts and science, arts and letters, that we don't have a Jack Lang, so to speak, to represent the arts in an official cabinet position. It's very important.
Fair enough. Quincy Jones, on this historic day, thanks so much for joining us. It's always good to speak with you. We'll see what happens with your proposal. And it's fascinating to hear about that conversation between you and Oprah and Barack Obama back in 2005. Quincy Jones joining us on this historic day.
Nice to hear you.
Thanks very much, Quincy Jones. When we come back, we're going to be talking with John King. He's getting close to an estimate how many people actually came to Washington, D.C. to participate in this historic event, the eyewitnesses to history. We're going to go back to John King. We're also standing by to hear from members of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s family on this day after we celebrated his life and his times. Much more of our coverage coming up right here in the Situation Room. The inauguration of Barack Obama will resume right after this. Marching bands, the floats continue in front of the President of the United States and the First Lady of the United States. They're all having a great time. It's not over with by any means. They're enjoying what they're seeing, and as they should enjoy what they're seeing. Soledad O'Brien is enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. You know, it's been a remarkable day, and people got really emotional. Kate Baldwin is down there on the National Mall with some stories of how people reacted to this amazing day. Kate.
Wolf. Well, as you can guess, they came early and they packed this mall. But take a look at what I see now. People came early, but they left early as well. As you can see, at the place of all the people, now hundreds of bags of trash. Some people here still looking on the Jumbotrons as they look at the parade. But as I walked amongst the people, as they experienced that moment, they all said they had to be here for it. Some saying it's overwhelming, some saying they couldn't describe it. But clearly, it was emotional. Listen here.
The long wait, the cold temperatures, the moment they were waiting for.
So help you God. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
We've been here since 2 this morning, and I thank God that I was able to see it.
The witnesses to history.
I just want to have a moment to myself and just cry. I can't put it into words.
It seems so unlikely at first that this man, you know, this man with his name and his background, that this person could become our president. And I mean, I think it's unbelievable and so exciting.
The massive crowd came from across the country, spanning generations. For many, the day meaning so much more than a transition of power, a day to capture, a day to remember.
As you can see, Wolf, with so many people, the focus has now clearly shifted from celebration here on the Mall to the parade, and will very quickly move to the White House with the work ahead. Wolf?
Lots of work ahead. Kate Baldwin, thanks very much. Brian Todd is also watching what's going on. Brian, there were some disappointed folks who came all the way to Washington, D.C., wanted to get through the police barricades, the metal detectors, but unfortunately weren't able to do so. You have some of their stories.
Absolutely we do, Wolf. This was a real study in contrast today out here. Thousands of people coming away very angry and frustrated, while others just exalted in the moment. For thousands, the proximity to history was a moment to savor and celebrate.
Indescribable how I feel to be with my parents and to be with my children. It's just unbelievable, but the world is changing. I'm just so excited about it.
But many others won't forget the clogged security checkpoints and the frustration of coming so close only to be disappointed.
What do you think of the security procedures so far? Are they working well?
Security at some points along the perimeter got overwhelmed, even in the pre-dawn hours. The volume meant a slow trickle into one area along the parade route. Some turned and left. Others got through, only to be told they weren't allowed into areas they had tickets for.
And everywhere I go, they tell me to go somewhere else. But you can't get in, and you're freezing.
I missed my first day of college for this.
Some of these people had so-called silver tickets that they say should have gotten them on the mall, but they were turned away.
What's stopping us from walking across the street? Huh? With the credentials.
Now, we asked a Secret Service spokesman about that. He said the only way that some of the agency people here would have turned those people away is if some of those areas were already too full to be safe. So they had to turn people away, even those who had those so-called silver tickets, to get them to the mall. Still, Wolf, a lot of people came away very angry and frustrated. They got so close, and yet they couldn't see what they had tickets to see, and others didn't even get through the security perimeters. I think it's going to develop as a pretty big story of this inauguration.
Always some snafus there, and always some depressed people as a result of that, understandably so. But at least they were in Washington, D.C. As we continue to watch the Windsor High School marching band move forward as well. The President of the United States, the First Lady of the United States, enjoying this parade, as all of us are. It's continue. Still, Soledad, no end in sight. Looks like there's still several more going forward. This Windsor High School marching band, by the way, is from Windsor, Colorado. It's making its first appearance at an inaugural parade.
And, you know, a moment ago we saw the Lesbian and Gay Band Association marching band go by, and that's really history-making as well, making their first appearance, too. It's the first time also that an openly gay and lesbian group's been invited to march in the inaugural parade.
Now they're moving forward with more of the sights and sounds of a beautiful, beautiful day. We're getting ready, Don Lemon, to speak with members of the King family, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. family. They're going to be coming here to reflect on this day. And I know that you're excited about this because it's an emotional moment for all of us, but especially for them.
It certainly is an emotional moment for them, and, you know, sort of culminating with Dr. King's birthday yesterday, and we had coverage. Soledad led our coverage all day yesterday, and talking to civil rights leaders who worked alongside Dr. King, and if not working alongside with him, at least had the same mission as him. It was sort of the culmination of everything that they had worked for. Still saying that we have a long way to go, but at least we're reaching there, and we've got the potential to do it.
I think it's very clear, the point they were making yesterday, which was, remember, Dr. King was talking about economic parity, and so it's one step forward for an African American to be in the White House. I mean, there's no question about that. We are watching history, but there's more. and Martin Luther King III certainly talks a lot about how poverty for all Americans is an issue that we as a nation have to confront.
But it's interesting, too. It's going to be interesting to talk to them, Wolf and Soledad, and hear what they were seeing through their eyes and feeling their own feelings about this. And I'm wondering, my first question, I think, will be, do you feel like this is a passing of the torch to your dad? Because he is such an icon, and everyone looks up to him when it comes to civil rights. And I'm wondering if now this torch is now passed to Barack Obama in their eyes.
All right, coming forward now, the Iowa State University Marching Band making its first appearance in this inaugural parade. The band recognized nationally for a tradition of excellence. The band has performed, understandably, at the Ohio State University football games. But get this, since 1878, and has participated in hundreds of parades and events throughout the United States. It has the largest all-brass and percussion ensemble in the world, and it looks like Barack Obama is especially happy to be hearing from the Ohio State University Marching Band. It will be followed, some of that, by Boy Scout Troop 358. Wow, they're coming in from all over. This Boy Scout troop coming from the Grace Baptist Church of Germantown, Pennsylvania. I think all of the states are being represented in this parade before the President of the United States and the First Lady. And remember, after this parade, they have to go back in the White House. They have to change, put on their tuxedos, their gowns, and get ready to participate. How many balls, official balls, are there? 10 or 12?
At least
or
10.
something like that. And it's going to be a long, long night for this first day as President of the United States, Don.
It is, and it's, you know, we were talking about the grueling schedule, and unfortunately, I hate to bring Ted Kennedy up, but the grueling schedule of these events, they didn't just start yesterday, and for many people who work here in Washington and who work in our government, they have been doing events for days and days and days. So it's, you know, for a healthy person, it's tough. So for someone who's suffering with health issues, it's even tougher.
As we watch the parade continue, the participants, thousands of them who've come to Washington, I want to reflect a little bit on what this day has been like. Our White House correspondent, Dan Lothian, is joining us now. Dan, viewers, I'm sure, want to see everything that happened, and a lot of viewers, unfortunately, couldn't see all of it as we did today because many of them had to work. But you've got a little recap of what has happened on this remarkable day.
That's right, Wolf, and I want to point out that noise you hear in the background as the bands continue to go down the street right here, Pennsylvania Avenue, right to my right, the review stand right to my right as well. So that's the noise that you hear in the background. That celebration continuing. The president expected to attend at least 10 balls tonight, going into the wee hours of the morning, putting a cap on what has been a historic day.
The first chapter of this historic day opens with a prayer. The Obamas departing Blair House for a short drive to St. John's Church. Nationally known pastor T.D. Jakes delivers the sermon and invokes a bit of Hollywood, appropriate for the times. Quote, "Sir, may the force be with you." Moments later, back in the Beast, the new presidential limousine, the Obamas head to the White House for coffee with Mr. and Mrs. Bush and the Bidens. Then a slow drive through cheering crowds to Capitol Hill, where after pomp and circumstance, prayers and performances, the presidential oath is delivered.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
But in an awkward moment, Obama jumps the gun.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
And Chief Justice John Roberts mixes up the lines.
That I will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully.
That I will execute
faithfully the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States faithfully.
But with his hand on Lincoln's Bible, the president-elect is sworn in as the 44th president. Inheriting a battered economy, 2 wars, and continued unrest in the Middle East, Mr. Obama, in his address, asked Americans to be patient.
Today, I say to you that the challenges we face are real. They are serious and they are many. They will not be met easily or in a short span of time. But know this, America, they will be met.
Even before the conclusion of his speech, boxes were being moved into the White House. And as the parade snaked around the nation's capital, some senior Obama aides were already at the White House, working on campaign promises and the crisis at hand. The transition of power complete as President Bush flies off to Texas.
White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs visited the press briefing room earlier today. He told me that he's still trying to figure out how to log into his computer. He also told me that 2 separate groups of senior aides did come here to the White House to begin working. One group leaving right after the swearing-in ceremony, the other leaving after the congressional luncheon. He said some of those senior aides have already finished all of their paperwork. Others still working on the paperwork and trying to figure out some of the technology like getting their computers working. But certainly, Wolf, this administration getting started right away in all the work that needs to be done, including the working on fixing the economy and also dealing with the war in Iraq. Wolf?
What a day it's been today, but what a day it's going to be tomorrow and for the next 4 years at least. This president's got an enormous agenda ahead of him with lots of crises, many, many challenges. The parade continuing outside the White House. Our coverage here in the Situation Room will continue as well. The inauguration of Barack Obama. We're going to continue to show you the parade at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen right during this commercial break. Stay with us. Our continuing coverage of the inauguration of Barack Obama resumes right after this.
Soledad O'Brien investigates. Black in America 2 Solutions. CNN this July.
Seat them. That's the Washington Monument. This is the National Mall here in Washington. It was jam-packed earlier today, not so jam-packed right now at the end of this day. It's almost 7 hours since the United States got a new president, Barack Obama. This is the USO, the United Service Organization float. The USO, as many of our viewers know, entertain troops. They've been entertaining the United States military since World War II, both in times of peace and war. The USO has consistently delivered its special brand of comfort, morale, and recreational services to the men and women of the United States military and their families. Always a nice touch to see the USO float at these kinds of events. Soledad O'Brien is here. Don Lemon is here as we continue to watch the inauguration of the President of the United States right here in the Situation Room. And we're getting excited because we're getting ready to speak with members of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. family and get their reflections on this historic day. Soledad, you've spent a lot of time researching and writing and reporting on Dr. Martin Luther King and his legacy, a powerful legacy, especially right now.
You really, I mean, words cannot truly describe what his legacy has meant to so many people, but of course culminating in many ways in this day. You know, people talk about the dream and the dream fulfilled. I think it's fair to say the dream is move forward. I think that even members of the King family, and it'll be interesting to get their perspective, would say there's work still to be done. And one has to not forget that Dr. King was working for economic parity. I mean, that's why he was in Washington, D.C. It was a march for jobs and freedom. It wasn't just a march. It was a march for jobs and freedom. And so coming back to that economic message, which was a centerpiece for Dr. King right when he died, I think is what a lot of people are going to want to see what Barack Obama does on that front. There's no question about that.
And what's interesting is I know that members of the King family, especially the children, feel like they share their father with the world. And because we all feel in some way that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is our father, at least a member of our family, especially for what he did for America and what he really did for the world. And I would be interested to ask Bernice King, as she joins us here, and Mrs. Ferris as well, Christine King Ferris and Martin Luther King Jr. III, all join us here on the Situation Room. Do you feel, Bernice, that the torch has passed to Barack Obama?
I don't know if I would call it the torch of Martin Luther King has passed to Barack Obama, but certainly a very important torch has been passed generationally in terms of leadership in this nation. He is the transitional moment where a whole new set of young people are rising up and determined to move this nation further into greatness.
Many people, I'm sorry for interrupting there.
As you watched today, Mrs. King Ferris, you watched the swearing in of the first African-American president of the United States. What went through your mind, and did you hearken back to your brother and what he might have thought?
Before you answer the question, though, I want to introduce all three of you to our audience so they get a chance not only to hear what you're saying, but also to know who you are. And we'll go from left to right. Joining us now is Christine King Ferris. She's the elder sister of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Christine King Ferris, thanks very much for coming in on this historic day. And then Bernice King is the daughter of Dr. Martin Luther King. And Bernice, we're really happy you're here as well. And Martin Luther King III, the son of Dr. King, is here. It's great that all of you can participate, and not only in eyewitnessing this historic event, but joining us here in the Situation Room. And go ahead, Don.
Thank you.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Wolf. When you saw that, Mrs. Ferris, did you think about what your brother might think? What was going through your mind, and did you think about that?
Yes, I did. I thought about him quite a bit. And I thought about the night before he was taken from us in his mountaintop speech. And he said, I've been to the mountaintop, I've looked over, I've seen the promised land. Now we are almost at the promised land, not quite, but we made a great step.
Martin, I'm curious to know what you think about that generational torch, because some people forget that the leaders of the civil rights movement were so young. I mean, 20s and 30s. Your father was just 39 years old when he died. And I wonder if you think that there literally will be a reinvigoration of young people who feel that they can lead movements again.
Well, absolutely. I think that a number of young people have been inspired just by the fact that President Obama ran, and of course won. One I know, I believe, is the mayor of Sacramento, Kevin Johnson, who of course played in the NBA for a number of years. But there will be individuals much younger than him who will be inspired. When kids who used to wear Jay-Z shirts are now wearing Obama shirts, rushing home to see CNN to see what you guys are saying the president is doing. It's a different day. It's very exciting. Let me add, though, finally, also, this is a monumental moment in our society. We're celebrating today. We celebrated the King holiday yesterday, but in the morning, and the president already said today, we're rolling up our sleeves. But that means all of us have to be engaged. And when we talk about whether or not some would say, well, this is a fulfillment of the dream of Dr. King, absolutely not. It is a huge step and certainly a huge part of some fulfillment. But when you got almost 40 million people, and we're going to get there tragically, who are living in poverty in America, that's unacceptable. We can and we must do better. We're a better nation, and what is being shown, what has been shown, I think, is this election has shown the kind of nation we are. The whole world is looking at us.
And Bernice, we saw your father's I Have a Dream speech yesterday here on CNN. Soledad and Don and all of us were really privileged to be able to play that in speech in its entirety for our viewers in the United States and around the world. And no matter how many times I've heard it, I learned something new in the course of hearing it. And yesterday it had such a powerful meaning on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the national holiday, your father's holiday. We remember him. I wonder if you go through that same sort of feeling every time you hear that speech, you get a little different notion of your dad.
Well, I get that anytime I hear my father, because he made so many speeches. That's his most celebrated one, as we know. But he has so many profound speeches. Probably what goes through me the most is I happened to turn 5 months of old that day. I was born March 28th of that year. And so that very significant year, and for me to be born at the time when he spoke these words, and now to be here 41 now in this year, years later, and know that those words are still resonating in the atmosphere and in our nation now, and that people are embracing it. And what's most important for me, when he spoke it about the 4 children, he was really talking about not just us, but future generations. And to see kids now reawakened, so to speak, and reconnected is wonderful.
And I can't tell you how many people, viewers around the world, were simply inspired by hearing that speech. Soledad, thank you so much for making it
thank you so
possible.
much for
Thank you to the King family for letting us do it. Stand by for a moment. We're going to continue our special coverage here in the Situation Room. We're watching the parade continue. It's wrapping up over at the White House. The President and the First Lady clearly enjoying every minute of this. They're getting ready, though, to go back in the White House, put on their tuxedos and their gowns and get ready for some partying. The celebration on this night, the balls, they're about to begin. Stay with us. The inauguration of Barack Obama. Our coverage continues in just a moment. Continuing our coverage of the parade. That's the NASA, space exhibit that's moving in front of the President of the United States right now. Only moments ago, by the way, the former President of the United States, George W. Bush in Midland, spoke to a crowd there as he arrived back in Texas, and he said this about the new president.
Today was a great day for America, and a good man took the oath of office, and we all offer our prayers for his success. Today's also a great day for the Bush family. We are back in the state of Texas, and we are here to stay.
All right, there they are, the first, the family, the President of the United States and the First Lady. They're walking away from the reviewing stand. The parade is now over. They're walking back through the north lawn of the White House to get ready for a bunch of parties tonight, formal balls, black tie balls. They'll be happy, no doubt about that, as they get ready for this next chapter in their life, and we can only wish them the best. The King family is still here. We want to thank all three of them for joining us: Bernice King, Martin Luther King III, and Christine King Ferris, the sister of the late Dr. Martin Luther King. Thanks very much for spending some time with us. This is a picture that the photographers will record, historians will write about. He's going to have some fun, Soledad, tonight, but tomorrow it's down to business.
The night is new, but tomorrow it's back at work. They got a lot of balls ahead of them and then a lot of work ahead, not just for the new president of this nation, but also for the nation as a whole.
And I just want to let our viewers know, as we see these pictures unfold, we want to do a special shout out, a special thanks to one individual who's helped us at CNN so much. The numbers tell it all. More than 500 people from CNN have been involved, tons of equipment in bringing you this special inauguration. But going back, 9 primary debates, 2 conventions, 4 presidential debates, 1 election night, multiply that by 7, you barely scratch the surface of Jane Maxwell's 28-year career here at CNN as head of CNN's special events unit. She certainly can be tough as nails when needed, but with grace, good humor, and above all, integrity, Jane helped establish CNN as a major force in journalism. She was part of CNN from day one, and this is Jane's last special event for us. She's off for retirement. Soledad, a much better schedule. We want to thank Jane for everything she's done for all of us. She is one unique person. We couldn't have done this without her. She really put CNN on the map in the United States and around the world.
This is a big event to go out on, absolutely.
And we want to thank Jane Maxwell, especially on this day. It's been a privilege for all of us to be presenting, reporting on what has happened. We've been on the air all day today, especially nice to see what's happening in the country right now, but the night is by no means over. Our special coverage of the inauguration of the President of the United States will continue right after the Situation Room. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. A special edition of Campbell Brown's No Bias, No Bull begins right at the top of the hour.